excited to be here. This is the Winter Art Bento Box for 2016. We are 1 year old, and it's been an awesome year, and I cannot wait to share this box with you and the project. So let's get going. We, of course, have the menu here, and this box is chock full of stuff. So I'm going to quickly go through this. Of course, some very wintry looking paper. We have an Art Foamies stamp, which I'm super excited about. This is the doily stamp, and you can use it with acrylic paint, fabric paint, inks. You can clean it up with soap and water, and it's just a really fun product. And I kind of felt this was kind of wintry and almost snowflake-like, so that's a fun stamp. We also have a Paper Source stamp for the holidays. Some say season's greetings, some say other things. They're just really nice, really well-constructed wood block stamp. And of course we have the paper that we get in the Art Bento box, the paper pack. We have a couple of different papers in here that are kind of a cranberry and winter feel. I'm just loving kind of the metallics in these boxes, but these are the two papers that are in every single box. And then every box also has a star, and these came from Germany, from Rotefaden. I hope I'm saying that right. It's a neat store. They make journals and journal covers. And I did a tutorial about mine over on my YouTube page, if you want to check that out. It's Drawriot. But I just thought that was a nice little fun paper touch. The substrate in this box is an interesting one because it is phenomenal shell paper. And everybody got 3 sheets, and everybody should have gotten at least 1 colored sheet to kind of experiment and play with. It's a multimedia paper, and it's made with actual shell emulsion. So it accepts acrylic, watercolors, inks, pastels, even oil pastels really well. It's archival, and it's acid-free. And this is the substrate because I just thought it would be really interesting, since we have stamping items going on, to give something that would really accept a stamp or ink really well. But also, this is the first time we've had anything like this in the box. We have a little sampler pack of mixed media inspiration cards. These are really awesome. Kiala Givehand is the artist that came up with these, and everybody got 3 different cards, and we're going to use this in the project we're about to do, so you'll see that in a second. They do come as a 52 card deck, and she sells them over on her website. And they're just a lot of fun and really help from a mixed media standpoint, which this box is very mixed media focused, just to be kind of inspired. Of course, the Ephemera pack is just chock full of goodies. Got some shimmering snowflakes and a bunch of stuff. So that's always cool. And I love to do like actual vintage materials. This is from an old prayer book that was from the 1800s. So I think that's always fun. And some extra ephemera back there. And then the little pack of goodies. So the thing about having a box this full of stuff, I could get almost everything on the little menu card. And one of the items that is missing off the menu card is this Tombow brush dual tip pen. So these are really cool. You can use them directly on the stamps, which you see I already tested it here. You can see some of that color. And you can brush that directly on the stamp and use it almost as a stamp pad. But it has a brush tip and it has a fine point tip there on the end. Also in here is a Soho Urban Artist colored pencil. These are really great. They're artist grade color quality pencils, and they stay vibrant, and they're really super light resistant. So that's awesome. And then a dual concept tip marker. So we have a fine tip and a wedge point on this. So we got 2 markers with dual tip, which is super fun. These are permanent, and everyone got a black one. Some of the bodies are gray and some of the bodies are white. That's just the way they came from the manufacturer. But they are all the same exact marker. So that is our box, and it is just full full of stuff, and I can't wait to get into the project. And of course, I always like to do a little fun tissue paper, and this has a nice little shimmer to it. So let's get started. So as I was thinking about this project, I not only wanted to use some stuff from the box, but I kind of wanted to look back at some of the previous projects we did. And my very first Art Bento Box project video was these little books. So I showed how to bind these little personal journals. That's the first video that we ever did, which you can check that out on artbentobox.com. But I had also made a bigger version. So I sell on my Etsy page, Drawriot, these little junk journal kits, which are super fun. And I use them to kind of do like just fun mixed media journaling in them. So I thought it would be fun, and they're bound the exact same way. I thought it would be fun to do this project in this little book. So I'm using an art journal for today's project. If you want to learn how to make one of these, you can, like I said, go to that first video that I did for Art Bento Box. It was actually from the test project when I was first launching this, and it was done back in the summer of last year. But the first official box wasn't until December. So you can check that out, make one of these, and join along the project, or you could do this in any art journal you have, or just play around with the materials on just a white piece of paper. So let's get started. The first thing is I'm going to pick a spread here. I'm going to do this one. And we're going to use these as a kind of foundation for what we're going to do here. Everybody's cards are going to be a little bit different mix of them, but I always think it's fun to use kind of prompt cards in different ways to get started, especially in art journaling. So we're going to check these out in a second, but the first thing I'm going to do is kind of go over the other materials that I'm going to use that aren't in the box. So some gesso, glue stick, some different colors of paint. I picked some greens and some blues. I figured I was going to do like a holiday theme, so I picked a iridescent gold and a magenta for a little touch of like red or burgundy. Pair of scissors and a pencil. So that should pretty much cover the gamut. And then of course I'm going to use the couple of markers and colored pencil that came in the box, and ephemera and various things. So to get started, I'm going to lay down a coat of gesso to kind of coat the page and cover some of this junk journal page that I have going on here. I typically like to lay down gesso when I'm working in kind of an odd book like this, because this postcard here is actually coated. So mediums, I'm going to kind of protect the pages a little bit, mediums aren't going to adhere to it as well because of the coating. So by laying the gesso on it, I can kind of cover up that slick paper and get a good surface to work on. I do put it on pretty thin though, because I like to see kind of the writing and the color that's going on back there. Just gives a little visual interest. I went ahead and put paper towel, piece of paper towel between my sheets here and here to kind of protect the edges of my book, since it's a junk journal book and it's kind of misshapen, odd sized pages. I don't want to get gesso on all the other pages. You can also do this with like a butcher paper or wax paper to kind of help protect that. So I have that going on. That is drying. I'm kind of an impatient, creative person, especially when I'm doing mixed media. I love to just get down to work. So I typically will blot my pages a bit and kind of force them to dry quickly. It also gives a little texture to the page, which I enjoy. It just adds a little more dimension. So now that we have a foundation on, we're going to look at these cards, and I'm going to try and incorporate each one of these cards into this art journal spread. So let's see what we got. Write in various directions using a permanent pen or marker. Oh, well, permanent pen, marker, journal with a permanent pen. Okay, no problem. Include a tag, label, or envelope. All right. So first things first, write in various directions. So since I'm about to use a marker, I do want to check that my page is dry, because I don't want to ruin the tip of this marker straight away, and paint has a tendency to do that very quickly to a marker. So I'm going to write happy. I'm going to actually take both sides off of this. Holidays. Joy. I'm going to kind of turn it since it's various directions. I write in different fonts too. Alright, so that's got the first one covered. Just gotta make sure there's no paint on the marker tip. So we'll do this one last, because I kind of feel like journal means kind of write a summation or write something that's more legible. Include a tag or envelope. So I keep over here, which you can't see off camera, I have a lot of random boxes of ephemera and little papers and stuff that I use in my everyday art and art journaling. But I also keep a box of tags. So I collect tags off of clothes that I buy or from my kid. These are fun. This is Problem Child t-shirts. Has these cool, like, really black, slick graphic tags. This one has a little piece of, like, laser cut wood on it. And then I also put some of the tags I run into, like from craft stores, or if somebody gives me some tags, I keep those in there. So I have like a tag box. We're going to pick some of these. Include a tag, label, or envelope. So we're going to put tags in here. You know what? I'm going to pick the bigger ones. So got that. So before I start including the tags, I'm actually going to add some other mediums and get out my ephemera. I like this paper here. Maybe these prayer books. And a blue sheet. That's the side. So I'm going to go ahead and start to glue in some of these. And I always use a piece of cardboard to kind of glue on top of, so I don't get glue everywhere. I hate getting glue on my artboard. And we are going to lay these in. Just over top of things and start to build a composition. If you've ever seen any of my art journaling videos, I do always talk about whatever I do to one side, I always do to the other side. It just creates good balance and harmony to do that, so that it doesn't look unintentional to have something over here without something somewhere else that's similar. And I'm kind of layering some paper just to create some interest to the background. it's kind of breaking up the words I wrote and making them a little more interesting and cutting them off in places. So you're not necessarily trying to read them as words, but more as just shape and line. I like using old music note paper. This ephemera came from an old magazine that was all newsprint on the inside. There was a Christmas edition. So you all should have gotten some piece of that magazine. I'm going to do kind of a holiday themed spread, so I'm going to go ahead and use all of this music note paper. Kind of fill in some of this background. Then we'll get into some paint. I like to kind of play and test out where I might put something before I lay it in. I like to overlap things a little bit too. So we have a good background going on. So typically, when I'm doing a book this size, I use a flat brush and a round brush in 2 sizes. So that way I have something for a little detail and some coverage brushes to work with. I'm going to use yellow oxide, kind of lay in a background here. And I add a little bit of water to it to make the paint go a little bit further and to make it a little more transparent. And even though I add a little water, I do also like to kind of dry brush scrub the paint a little bit. It adds some visual interest and just doesn't paint the fence. Meaning I don't just cover it all exactly the same way. So you can see a variation in the color. I'm going to go in with a little blue. Add a little water to that as well. I like to go along the edges of things with a darker color and make them stand out a little bit. So this torn piece, I'm going to go along that edge. And like I said, anything I do over here, I'm going to do something similar over here. Because it would look weird to only have this color right here. I might bridge the gap a little bit with this color, just to kind of tie these two pages together. It's mixing right on the page some of this yellow and blue to make a little bit of green. So I already have 3 colors going on here with the mixing. So now I am going to look at this shell paper and maybe pick some of this blue. This is a really neat texture, and when you get this, you can kind of see some shimmer in it. And I'm gonna cut some shapes out of this and almost use it as a horizon, like a ground. There's me kind of planning out again. I just thought the lines in it kind of made an interesting ground. Almost a holiday scene that I'm creating. Now, because I have this kind of grounded line and a lot of my color is kind of working the same hue, I'm going to go in with some more gesso right on this edge. So I dipped my brush in water and now I'm going to go right here along the edge and kind of pull up some brighter white. And kind of a watered down version of it from this ground. Just to separate the foreground, which is now this bottom part, from the background a little bit. And doing that scrub, push that around a bit. Kind of get it to blend in and not have such a stark line between the two. I might even blend down over this line a little bit. Now I'm going to look at my papers. I really like this blue paper, especially with kind of the colors I have going on here. So we're going to cut one of these shapes out. And a neat flower in here we're going to use. So again, I've kind of placed these here to decide how I want to put them in. And I think I need a little white behind them to kind of push them to the foreground a little more. So I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to kind of mark where I'm going to put that. So I know that this space needs the white. And then I want to blend the edges in a little bit, so it doesn't look like I just stuck a bunch of white randomly, but it almost looks like it's part of the page. I'm going to test. Yeah, that pops it a lot more. So we're going to do the same thing over here. Just quickly mark and then add some white. And then go ahead and blend that in a bit. And then that pops a lot better. And then since I have white left on my brush, I don't ever like to waste paint. Plus, I don't want to just have these kind of white spaces, only where these cutouts are. So I'm going to go ahead and use the rest of that on my brush. And maybe even a touch more. To kind of add some more of these kind of white blended areas. Here and here. So I'm just kind of looking before I glue these pieces down. And I feel like I have a good amount of white on here now. I'm going to go ahead and glue these. One of the things I love to do in art journals is if I'm gluing something in or doodling something is to do kind of a repeated shape. So this little flower over here has these arcs. So we're going to go ahead and do these similar arcs. In other places. And then probably use colored pencil. I like to scribble. I think it adds interest and almost a playful look to the page. And I just kind of do it with abandon. I mean, I'm not planning these lines in any way. And they're just fun. It's very freeing too. Sometimes you get so wrapped up in like, oh, I like this and I don't want to ruin it, and it's okay to just play. Pointed tip, do a little more scribbling. So I'm really liking where this is going, and I think it's time to include the tags. Let's see. I was thinking maybe a little snowflake, but you know what? These are too big now. So I'm going to switch back over. I have 3 of these little ones. And I'm going to glue them down into a little shape and kind of turn them into a snowflake. So before I do that, I'm going to paint them. And I'm going to paint them with this gold. don't think that I might have necessarily decided to use tags on this spread if it were not for the prompt card. And that's one of the things I love about like prompts and weird cards where it's kind of a haphazard luck of the draw because it kind of pushes you to think about your page or your work or your color choices, all of that in just a brand new way. And kind of pushes you outside the box of what you're comfortable with. Marks you're comfortable making, colors you're comfortable using, all of that. That paint dries really quickly. These are already dry. Oop, I need this to glue. I'm going to crease that edge there since that's hitting the fold. I chose the gold color because there's little bits of gold in this paper, and I like the shimmeriness of it. Now we're going to go back to this concept tip marker and we're going to add some details to this snowflake. And before I get into on the art journal details, I think I might add a little white. The white not only pushes that to the foreground, but it also draws your eye and makes it a focal point. Checking dryness. Adding some connecting dots, dash. I like the idea of a snowflake because they can be completely original and unique. And there's no rules about snowflakes. Anything could be a snowflake. Even a scribble could be a snowflake. More scribbles in there. And now, just looking at this, I'm trying to decide if I want to add a little more paper. And I'm liking it. I feel like this is a really nice place to journal. It kind of left some open space. So we're going to go ahead and add there to do that. I'm kind of more intentionally block this space. And then use my finger to kind of soften those edges. And I love that kind of this joy and these words are kind of peeking out. And so while that's drying, let's review. We've included tag. We wrote in various directions with a permanent pen or marker. And now we're going to journal. So that is getting pretty close to dry here. Let's remove these. So I can kind of turn this and get a good writing angle. And I'm thinking about, since this is a holiday spread for me, that I want to journal about the holiday. So I wrote, family is joy and laughter. Each moment is a song that is perfectly in tune for your life in that moment. So enjoy the song. And that kind of is inspired by the music sheet paper I have in the background. So I hope you enjoy this winter box and enjoy playing along in an art journal with me. And we have a lot of fun papers, a lot of fun ephemera, and just a box full of joy and creativity. Share your projects on Instagram or on Facebook. Tag them Bento Box, and I will repost and share with everyone else. Thanks so much, and 2017 boxes are out, so go grab one of those. They're already starting to sell, and I hope you have a wonderful holiday season.